Hmm. I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what we were finishing up
Damn.
on, but I
You
do
said you're
know.
ready to jump back in. Welcome to Two Dudes. Today we're going to talk about propaganda and manipulation.
Well, I can tell you the last thing that I was significantly talking about is the fact that I think everybody feels that our media has pretty crazy biases on both ends. You could talk to somebody on the left and they'll complain about Fox News, even though half of the people on the other side don't even watch that. But
Oh, you were
then,
saying the tariffs.
oh, about tariffs, like I don't
I
necessarily.
like the tariffs.
Yeah, I think they may be necessary to bring back manufacturing and get things back in order. But like long term, I don't know if I would want us all to be just like using tariffs to threaten each other and be in constant like trade wars. Like I think there is like a leveling out of trade that needs to happen. But maybe now is the time for a bit of a trade war, maybe kind of a light trade war. Hopefully not too big of one.
Well,
That's what I think.
yeah, I mean, I think, all right, you have the United States as a, like, depreciating value of a nation, realistically, right now. They're on the decline. And
Yes.
China is likely peaking. A lot of people would think or thought that that was still something in the future, but I think that they're either at the start of their peak or in the like in they're at their peak.
We can hope, and I think from what I've read, that's what people are saying is that they're really not. They're going to be dealing with a people issue because of their one child policy, and then there's a lot of other issues, the way they did their building and nobody buying up those houses, and then the housing market crashing. Like, yeah. So I think there's a lot to support you saying that.
And their population is, yeah, they kind of screwed up that policy and did it a little bit too long. So I think that they're going to have some issues with that. And then I, I'm not I'm not I don't know all every detail of the money system, but I know that people have accused them of like super inflating their economy and like lying about a lot of things. So,
I can
but
give
at least
only
America,
one
like,
I can give a small piece of insight on it that, like, I know that people accuse them of unfair trade practices because the government helps people to get really, really low prices. Kind of like how Jeff Bezos ran Amazon at like a net negative for like a really long time, and then they like cornered a bunch of the market, and then they increased the prices. Like China was basically like helping their companies do that worldwide, and like no other like country is helping their companies do that. Like, so that's one way. I'm sure there's other ways as well.
yeah, and I would assume that instead of something like what happens in America, where you have these big corporations or big companies, and the government kind of like swapping sides. I think a lot of that probably happens, but it's more directive from the government, and it'd be more like the CIA taking those jobs rather than just corrupt people. You know,
Yeah, definitely.
uh, a lot of like Chinese bots and everything online. I keep telling you about that. I started a bookmark. I only have one post in there yet so far. Um,
It is
but I started
confirmed.
bookmarking my suspected bot accounts.
It's real. You're not tripping on the Chinese bots. I watched a video on it earlier and then I looked it up. I maybe I can find some of the stuff on it, but there has been confirmed Chinese bots that they come in specifically on like certain topics, just like you said. So
Yep.
you will bring them to you when you say certain things. So you might have thought like it could be China. It is China on that. So
Dang, I don't know how to do that.
definitely confirmed on that one.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was gonna put in here. I started realizing that there's these accounts. Look at this. No blue check mark or anything, but when it posts, it gets 8.9 million views,
Jesus, that's weird.
and it's got like a decent following, but no blue check mark.
That's a huge following, 135K.
Yeah, but like I don't know. The thing is, a lot of
That's
them they
all
say to
AI
look with
generated.
all their. I know, but they watch.
What is it exactly that you're doing there?
I'm on Grok,
Oh, it'll tell
and
you?
it'll like look through its like posts. I think
The posts are inflated. Is that what that says? I can't read it.
was given. I can read some of it out loud. I'm just trying to find some of it that is good. The post you're interested includes a reference to a specific voice. Yeah, it's just doing the one post, but account information we lack details. The account creation follower ratio. Uh, this doesn't. I found a way to do this before. I don't know what these bot detection tools are. I should get one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's probably best to, can you get something that auto blocks them when it detects them? Or maybe
I don't
there's
know.
a
I
good
like
reason to
interacting
have.
with them.
Yeah, bots give you traffic. So the dead internet theory is real. And I think people are actually going to enjoy interacting with nobody in the future, just bots. It
I
could be
mean,
real.
I don't
Everybody's
like
just going
them
to talk
because
to AI.
they're programmed to just be very mean right now. I can tell you that from my interactions.
Are they really?
Yes, dude. Like the, I mean, you
That's
got to
kind of
think
funny.
it's a machine programmed to like just like try to argue people. So it like if you prove it wrong, it just like goes to a whole new argument basically. And I'm like, what is going on? But I don't know why I'm fascinated with it. I keep going. And I don't. The other thing is, I just don't know if it's a bot or not. Like I don't have 100%, so it's very hard for me to just like step away or like call it. I've tried to call it out a couple times, and people are like, I'm not a bot, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. I still think it's a bot.
No, they will tell you that they're not a bot. I think I've mentioned this before on another of our talks, but their AI is being integrated with RuneScape bots so that they will answer questions when asked. So you can't even root them out because they just answer. I mean, nobody's typing more than like a couple sentences to each other in that game anyway. So it models that and it just seems like a complete human. So um, I assume that's what they do with that. But here's the other interesting thing. Like you can't really make assumptions based on like what China actually like believes. Because I know you said like they'll, come in on like the Israel issue or many others. Like they probably come in on the other side on a lot of issues too, because their whole point is trying to just stir things up. So any issue that gets people going and stirs things up and
Oh yeah,
makes the American people unfocused, that would probably be the goal of those bots is just to
yeah.
promote it. So if you're actually saying something and the bots come, they might actually like that thing that you said.
No, they try to argue, and like I get swarmed of, and what they try to do is they um I think they try to like post a bunch of things underneath. Like if you post a really good comment on a post that they don't like and they don't want a bunch of people to see it, the bots go and they just flood that with a ton of other comments. Or I don't know, maybe they do like what I say because you're right. Sometimes I do get a ton of comments, so I wonder if that's
That's what I was wondering. Yeah,
boosting me.
because it could
But
be the way
then
you're saying.
other way, but I've read the other way. I mean, both probably happen, but um, I've read about the other way, where they like go and swarm to like try to make a better, and that happens all the time actually. Because what happens is I get a bunch of comments and any of my like comebacks, like somebody will say, and that's what I was trying to get bookmarked is people like these bots will say something that doesn't make any sense. Like I'm emotionally and like socially intelligent enough to understand most jokes and like most sides of everything. And there are some that are just blatantly not funny, not clever, not a good point. not even addressing what I'm even talking about, and I'm not like in a rant or anything. It's like a small comment,
And they still get a
and
lot of
it'll have
likes.
like, yeah, it'll have like 14 likes in like 3 minutes on a post that has like 150 likes on it or something, and I'm like, dude, no fucking way.
Can you
Did
give
you
like an
didn't just
example of
show
how
me up?
little it makes sense?
Maybe like a post on race, and then I comment something about race that involves like Trump, and then somebody else comments something about Trump did something the other day, but it has absolutely nothing to do with race. They're just using the Trump part, and that like
That
gets a ton of likes, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But it's also not even a clever like what Trump did the other day or anything. So like
so it's
that
not a
comment
good
alone on anything,
whataboutism or anything.
yeah, it's nothing. And I don't know. I need to start trying to bookmark them, but
Yeah, do that next time. We can show it
I will.
on the
That's what I'm
talk
gonna do.
too.
Is I'm gonna try to make a long list of like this bookmark to like go through, and I want to just go through it, and by that time I think I'll have a pretty good understanding. But
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And um,
oh,
I
go
what's
ahead,
that?
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I did see a video of this guy talking about the China bots and a bunch of the other stuff that you're talking about as well. To say that we're in an arms race with them right now. And would you call this a Cold War with China or not?
I'm very much under the impression that the Cold War. All right, I actually talked to my wife about this yesterday or last night. The Cold War never ended. It changed. It morphed. That's what that Soviet Union factor from that was like in Canada was saying, or he wasn't saying that, but he was explaining it. That basically everybody realized that America had a military built up to where it had a stranglehold on the rest of the world. So no other country can do anything to America without ensuring mutual destruction unless they topple America from the inside out. So that's the only strategy that anybody ever has. That's also why those bots always just try to tear everything apart. And
Using our
yeah,
own free speech against us, it's always been the plan for sure.
yeah. And then
They can get
that's
their
why I was
ideas to
just
us.
like
We can't get ours to them.
in my head I'm like, why are we, and I get the whole TikTok thing, like it's got, good videos, it's a good whole system, but in my head just from a out of the, like, never was on TikTok, just like, why are we on this Chinese thing? This is definitely a bad idea. Just in the long, like long run, even if it's not bad, right now or whatever, but just the idea of it, it's just like, I don't know, taking most of our media input from a foreign adversary's app just doesn't sound great.
Yeah, and I think it's the unfortunate part is just how much of an adversary we've become between them because now it's just become this technological thing where it's like every little thing that comes from China could be like a little spy device, and that's what they're talking about with a lot of these things. Um, and it's not a great situation to think that they're doing that, but they're definitely doing it. And I think most Americans don't really understand the extent of it, but it is pretty bad. I still took my position on TikTok and you took yours, and there was a lot of correct things that you had to say about that, and ultimately it was just the damn stupidity of our people that made it so they went to an even worse one. I don't know if people are still on red note. Is that still a thing?
I don't think so, but
They just wanted to hand a little data
who
over there
knows? Because
for
like I
for a
don't.
little while.
For all I know, they could have just throttled people talking about Red Note, so that I just don't see people making dumb videos like that anymore. But to be honest, I think a lot of that was a few videos of people that anybody that made a video. I think the bots just made the most popular.
Yeah,
So like everybody could see. It's just like one of the. I bet you it's on here. Oh, maybe just bandwagoning.
So like the as a propaganda technique. So what specifically are you trying to kind of link
I'm
with
saying the
that?
bots try to push that
Oh,
red note as like a bandwagon. Like, look, everybody's
ah,
doing it. Look how much better it is. Look, everybody's so stupid. And I do think they for sure pushed pro China, like CCP propaganda that way. But they do that all the
no.
time. They make people do that in our Hollywood films, like TV, everything.
Yeah, I can see that as being a pretty effective, method that they could be using there.
And
It's interesting.
we can't do anything because everybody wants to sell that to the up and coming like lower middle class China.
Yeah, no, that it
So
makes
they're
sense.
like,
Like
there's a ton of money in this. Like most, if you look at a lot of the Hollywood movies, I think most of those are
they're
like heavy amount of their money comes from China.
Yeah, no, the box office is huge there, and you can see them making more films that are geared towards that audience as well, and which is kind of interesting actually, because obviously the Americans, they're not watching as much Hollywood stuff anymore, but they've got this new global market that really like eats their stuff up, and it's going to be interesting to see where that stuff lands. I have been noticing as well that China is starting to actually export some stuff over here in terms of like their films and gaming, which is something we've never seen before. But just for perspective on that, like they released Black Myth Wukong, which was one of the most popular games of last year, and people said it was really good. So that's like a Chinese developed game, and then you got a couple other pretty notable ones that have come out as well, and then the films that have been coming out from up there for a while. Like, did you ever watch IP Man? Any of those?
Um, no, I don't. I
Dude,
can't see myself watching
that's got
a
to be my
Chinese movie.
favorite. That is a Chinese propaganda film in a lot of ways because it's about when China was invaded by Japan, and then it's just about this guy IP Man who was like the teacher of Bruce Lee, but he uh he fought a whole bunch of the Japanese people and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool story. So it's like it's really just about like is my kung fu better than yours? But like it's a really well done film. But it's got quite a bit of like Chinese propaganda seeds in there. But like that one came out a while back, but it was really big in the U.S. So you can kind of see more and more but it's not just that. The point I'm trying to make here as well is that our economies are kind of tied together in a lot of different ways. Manufacturing now with movies and games and everything, like we're becoming more tied together, not less.
Maybe it can be become what like the actual globalization of the market was supposed to be. And I don't think we might have to rewind a little bit, but back to the tariffs. I don't think that that's a long term thing. I think that's a evening the market out. And when I was reading about the healthcare stuff, um, with how the market between America and Europe is basically interlinked, the leaders of Europe were talking about how they need to like start to like get together as a competitive force against America with pharmaceuticals and everything. And I think everybody's starting to see, and it was just like the public that started to figure this out as Russia and China started making like these threats to take the land in Ukraine and for China to go and reclaim Taiwan. I think both of those kind of just put it into everybody's face. But I think for the past like decade, Europe's been trying to work towards like being more competitive with a lot of that stuff because I think America and Europe both got tricked by money and just sold out to a bunch of money that was over in China to source everything out to them. So now we we're kind of like trying to take that back. So I think it's just like a slow thing that's happening. I think ideally the plan should be to have something like you're talking about where yeah, we should be able to play Chinese games and Chinese um like Chinese what else did you say? Oh, movies,
Yeah, there's some
all
big
that type of
ones, you know.
stuff. Same thing with like every other country. Like everybody should be sharing all of that stuff, but you know, maybe we should be using Canada for what they're like good at. And maybe I don't know. If maybe if everybody just like calms down a little bit and we all just like get our solidified zones, then if everybody's even, then it might work. But then again, now it's starting to sound like a one world government again. So
Yeah, and that's the push that I'm the most afraid of is a one world government from anybody. Like I do not want it to be us. I don't want it to be China. I don't want it to be a, resurgence of the Ottoman Empire or anything else like that. Like seriously, I just fear a one world government more than anything. But there's all these theories about like what happens when big economies clash against each other, right? And there is the idea that, back we saw the first one happen when the empire England's empire was basically just taken over by us, our economy became so big that it was bigger than their economy, and it made the most sense that we just became the world power at that point. But everybody always assumed, there's lots of writings about this, that if China ever got up to the same like GDP as us, and now they've like surpassed us in certain ways, but it's just because they have more people, like more money is spent there. But if they got up to the standard of living that we're at in the US with all of their people, like it would be no question they're going to be the place everybody is spending money at. So there's going to be an upset if they pass us in, actual like, power like that. Um, but everybody assumes that if it got towards that point, it's going to be a war, So I think it really is best to try to avoid that by, doing as much as we can with the economy. And if it takes some short-term tariffs, okay, I'm down with that. The only thing I was saying about tariffs is that, like, ideologically, I'm against them because I would prefer a world that we can do free trade in. But I understand, so there's certain things able to kind of set my principles aside and say, like, I think we may need to do this time because, like, things are getting pretty screwed up, right?
well, and I think the tariff is not supposed to. Yeah, I think you know in times of peace you shouldn't really have tariffs, but you know if somebody starts to get out of line, that's when you tariff them, and that's how like I mean that's the same as like the globalization with like all the sanctions and all of that. But I don't know. I think it's maybe a easier way to do it because what they're just sanctioning like people and I don't know like singling people out and I don't know. But yeah, I think they can try to work out a way. And actually, a big thing is, or a big issue, um, that's the United States power right now is that we do still have the richest and best market for everybody to sell into because we have
Oh
the
yeah,
most like expendable income
yeah, definitely.
and
Like
everybody
there's,
wants the American petrodollar as their return.
yep, so far. And it was kind of a good, just to kind of go a little bit off track there. Like we had Argentina is trying to dollarize the economy. Like they're trying to, get rid of their money and completely just move to the US dollar. And he's succeeding at it too. And that's a very interesting way that you could have like a completely sovereign country of another kind that's like, I just don't want to mess with having my own currency. Like, let me just have your currency. Like that's pretty interesting. Just hitching your whole economy, to our currency. That's a big bet.
Is that real though? They're
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
trying to do that.
Yeah, dude. So Millet, Xavier Millet is
Yeah.
is the guy. He's the first libertarian president anywhere. But that's his ultimate goal, is to dollarize the economy, and he's already started it. So it's uh it's going to happen, and I'm very excited to see how, because basically what he did, his plans, he even told the people there, I'm going to throw us into a recession, and then I'm going to get us out of it, and he did. and now they are not running a deficit for the first time in like a really long time. So, and it was really bad. Like their inflation was terrible. Their people were doing terrible. He cut so many things in the economy. He just, same thing Trump's doing, like, taking a bunch of the places, getting rid of a whole government organization and keeping the important stuff and putting it into another organization. Um, so he's been working on that. But one day we will be able to fly to Argentina and not exchange the money and just spend money there, go on vacations. I think it's all going to work out really good for them. I'm so excited to see libertarian economics in use for the first time, and the fact that it's successful so far.
Yeah, that's pretty. I guess I didn't know anything about that. I have to look into it. I guess I did know a little bit, but I just didn't know. I didn't know about the money part.
Yeah, the dollar, it's
I
super
wonder what that would
interesting.
do for the dollar then, because that's going to be more people. So are they just going to print it? Like, is the U.S. Treasury just going to print extra money to start to include? Because like
That's
they have to base everything off of the amount of people.
It said I think that their central bank may play a role in that, um, being allowed to print the money.
I
So
just
if they
I wonder
if they
what it would
switch it
look
to
like
it,
from the American perspective, though.
it would definitely um it would definitely be good for the US dollar in my mind.
Oh, I'm
Somebody else
thinking
using
yeah,
their whole. Yeah, because I don't think that
unless
it's the situation
unless
where they.
they
What's that?
sorry, unless they go and do print extra money to give to the central bank of Argentina, and then they just print a bunch of extra. I don't know. I'd have to think about that for a while, but I feel like they could screw us somehow for sure.
So
Like inflate
it,
our money again.
well, it will be inflation in a way if they are using new US dollars. So inflation is a given if there's an increase in the money supply, but like they are going to be completely beholden to what the Federal Reserve makes as the rates in the US. I know they would be hitching themselves to that. So they would have no say over what the Fed does. But they would be allowed to, essentially use the Fed. And obviously, basically what happens is like they will have federally, assured banks there, that will be able to give out loans, and that's how the money will be created. So obviously the money won't be like ever, printed. It'll just be like money in cents in accounts over there. But that's what I've read into. That's the extent of it. So there that I've read into. There might be quite a bit more to it, but um, that's definitely what I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look into it. It seems interesting.
Super interesting. That's one of my favorite things going on in the world right now. That man, went out there with a chainsaw and won. Crazy man.
Well, hopefully it works out here in America.
Yeah, we're kind of doing something similar, so we'll see.
All of the chainsaw part.
Yeah, we're definitely um doing that. So it'll be interesting.
All right. Well, let's try to read through a few of these.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Number one, appeal to emotion.
Yeah,
This
and these
technique
are
involves, huh?
propaganda techniques. We're going to the
Yeah,
propaganda techniques now. We should probably say that.
yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe could be a good idea. Okay, so a few propaganda techniques. I had Grok list out here. Number one, appeal to emotion. This technique involves stirring emotions like fear, hope, anger, or pride to bypass rational thought. Examples include fear mongering in political campaigns and using heartwarming stories and advertisements to influence public opinion. That one's just used like that's just that seems like the you're just doing that. Everybody's doing that.
Oh yeah, like when you talk about the media or
They wouldn't even think that
sales
that's a
or.
propaganda thing.
Well, it is in a way.
Well, I agree, but I'm saying most people probably wouldn't think it is.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
yeah, you want to appeal to their emotion. I don't know. Maybe it's from sales. I definitely have heard that a lot though.
Most salesmen would definitely understand it, but I don't know if they would even think of it as a propaganda technique. I just think they think of it as a tool, And if you think about what like the media is trying to do when they're pushing out one of these, ideas that is propaganda, it's selling an idea. It's the same, thing. And that's how they think of it too. They don't even think of it as a bad thing. They're like, we're pushing something that's going to get the result we think is better for the country. So, like, it's a really twisted, thought process in their mind where they don't even think they're propaganda, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that just don't think, I don't know, probably just don't think about it that way at all. Probably for a
Yeah,
lot of these, to be honest. But yeah, I see that
definitely.
one everywhere. Bandwagon. Number two, bandwagon. This approach suggests that everyone is doing it or believing it, so you should too. It's used to make individuals conform to what appears to be the majority view, often seen in social media where popularity can be manufactured through likes or shares. Yeah, it's also what a lot of salespeople do. People do as well.
Oh yeah.
That's the whole like we
Everybody
just
in the neighborhood's doing it.
yeah we just did
Mhm.
this, or we've been super busy. What can we help you with? Like all of that type of stuff is like some form of that bandwagon thing. And I was taught like on the little like a scale of I forget what the scale or graph is called, but I don't know. There's like a peak, and it's where like you have your early adopters, and uh, then it gets like really popular, and then there's like the late people to it that get it like a year or 6 months after it's released,
Yeah.
and most people like only get it after a couple of other people have gotten it. So that's what you just tell people. Everybody's already doing it.
It's
That's
sometimes
the
the only way to get your first piece of business is to tell somebody that everybody else is already doing it with you. And then, you make that true. So but it's manipulation. And
yeah
that's what people do in sales. They use that in marketing. And unfortunately, I think that the news today has become more of that. It's marketing rather than news, or sales, whatever
it's
way you want to
manipulative
put it.
marketing.
Yeah, and news is supposed to be something that's got a lot more of a factual edge to it, and I'm just not really seeing that. What I feel everybody's doing is trying to push narratives, and it really burns me out. I can't. I think there's a reason why nobody's listening to, mainstream media as much anymore. It's because that really messes with your head.
Yeah, and I think the Kamala Harris campaign, especially when she first announced it, and all everything that happened with the media, like right after that, of like, oh, how awesome it is, everybody would love her, what a great president she would be. Look at how many people support her. It's all a version of this bandwagoning, and they did it like so strong that I mean, I don't know,
That's a big
I didn't have to
example.
like what.
That's a big example for sure. That's a great example of the bandwagon when, when Kamala first came out, and it really worked for them. They took a huge, they went way up in the polls because they told everybody, a bandwagon story essentially.
Yeah, and they were just like, "Oh, look, everybody's already on board." And then like I suspect a lot of people were like, "Are we?" And like looking at each other, and they just shrugged and went forward. You know?
Yeah, and didn't even question the fact that there was nobody else that they got to choose from. It was just her.
Well,
They just pretended like it was already her. Everybody agrees.
and you're like paying people online to like you're paying like a lot of people online to basically spit your other propaganda. So like those are the people that you catch it with because you're just like, look, let them know that you've been talking to everybody. Everybody out here in Boston wants, all that stuff is like, I don't know. I think a lot of it was more fabricated than anybody realizes. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's bandwagoning. I mean, let's not be let's not be too biased here. The right definitely does it too. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, I'm
a
talking
lot of
about
the
all media
MAGA
here.
audience is like huge with that.
Yeah, I mean, you why that this is why nobody watches Fox News, you know? It feels fake.
Actually, I suspect that the media has more control with this than people think. I don't think that they even really realize how much control that they have.
Probably not, because it's a
And
lot.
I could be wrong. This might not be a great example because I've never really looked up too much of this to be honest. But when
Let's hear it.
when the COVID-19 vaccine got like announced and came out, dude, that was Trump. Trump got that whole thing. They told him that you can't do this. It's not going to happen for 4 years. The whole left hated it. They were like, we're not going to take all this. And then
Yep. Even
they
Kamala.
had in Lansing, Michigan, at the Capitol, had a bunch of people protesting it, which I think were just a bunch of people in the middle, and a bunch of these people that probably went and voted for like RFK, so they were on the left, and they were like, "No, we don't want this." And they were like the old school people on the left, and they're like, "Ooh, we're gonna have a really big problem here." So they were like, "Look," and they went, and there was like one group of Trump people there, dressed up outside of their cars, but the whole protest, for the most part, were people inside their cars, like the mass majority of it. The media made it out to be without any context, like nobody there, I think, or anybody prior to this really had this idea. And the media just portrayed it like, look, if you're against this vaccine, you're MAGA.
Yeah, yeah,
Look. And everybody, and it even fooled the whole, everyone was like, yeah. And the right was like, oh, I'm definitely against it. We're not doing that. You guys are trying to, like, they go through this whole thing. And Trump's sitting there like, are you guys kidding me? I just worked so hard to get this thing. We were going to run on this. And now it's my worst thing.
yeah.
Uh, so
Uh,
a fumble by him for sure there,
oh yeah,
but pretty up against the deep state now that we're finding out that this all was Fauci's little science experiment in Wuhan that leaked out.
oh yeah, that's gonna make it a lot more interesting. And it a lot of people say like Operation Warp Speed is not something I ever want to see repeated again. But like if you're one of those left-wing people, you should be celebrating Trump for that because he got your little vaccine approved faster and out to everybody. And that's what they said would solve the pandemic. And what disturbs me the most is that, after we realized that, the virus wasn't as crazy as everybody was saying, is that, and then it got less bad on its own, like the way that they took that off of the media, like people are still dying of COVID-19 to this day, and they just don't even talk about it anymore. Like that was such a huge thing to now just be like, you know, well, now it's just mild, so we just don't even talk about it. Like, I think they know they screwed up really bad with that issue. It's so unpopular with people. And like that's why we're not even talking about like if it was created in a lab or anything like that. Like that discourse has just completely left the mainstream. I think worldwide.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen it on anything major. Just a lot of people online posting it.
But the lab leak thing continues to like they'll release stuff that says like it keeps on leading us more towards confirmed. And um I don't know. That's definitely it. When RFK was being confirmed, they said they were trying to dog on him for saying Lyme disease came out of a lab, and then I watched something
It did, and
recently.
then
It did, yeah. Like,
no, I can explain this pretty well actually. At least what the media try to do in a propaganda stunt. So he went and did that, and yeah, they questioned him about it, and then they had everybody say that Lyme came from, or that that's not true because Lyme disease you can find in ancient people all the way back to like 4,500 years ago. Yes, you could also find coronavirus way before COVID-19. It's the fact that they manipulated it so that it can infect people because prior
now
to Lyme
there's a
disease being
manipulation
an
tactic.
issue was literally, huh?
That's a manipulation tactic of. just completely omitting information and thinking that people are stupid by,
It's a half truth.
taking a generic piece of information like, oh, coronavirus can't be created in a lab because coronaviruses have existed forever. Like that'd be a dumb argument.
Well, that's what they do. Or that's
I
what they did
know.
with Lyme. They just were like, no, that's been around. This is like, that's what I saw the community notes on, which I know that there's a lot of targeted community notes on X. And I'm sure there's going to be in the future on everything as
Yeah.
like Facebook adopts it and all. I don't know. I think everybody's going to probably turn to something similar to that because it's probably the best way. But I think these bots are going to end up being an issue for it all because, or I don't even know if they're bots, but I know that people have already got caught like in groups telling and sharing a post link so that everybody that's on the community can go sway it to the point where people I follow on X tell their followers to please go and like please go mark this not helpful. And it's like, oh my god, dude,
Yeah, and
it's just going to
I
be a
guess I
war
haven't
over this
explored
stuff
enough to
now.
see how bad the community notes can be. Do you have an example, or can you think of something that you saw that was like just a really bad community note? Because most of the
That
time I
that
see them,
one,
they're pretty helpful. What was the
they
exact thing
usually
that he said?
well they'll fix it later, so like it doesn't always last, but
Yeah, but what did the community note
so
say?
the one for the Lyme disease said that like this is false. Lyme disease has been around
Oh,
prior.
that was actually a community note. I thought you were saying that was just something people were saying.
It is, but I'm saying it's all attached. So yeah, the community
Damn.
note said that. People online, I think, were saying that. I think the media was saying that. That's what they were making fun of him for, like when they were commentating over the RFK Jr. stuff. I think they all get texts, dude, or like an email. Like
Yeah,
if you've ever seen the
like this is the
emails that,
narrative.
yeah, no, they get talking points, the sentence to say, like they get everything, the words to use. That's more important. But they'll give like almost like a yeah, almost like you're getting a scripted sales,
Yeah, and
but it's like
people
bullet
have
points.
shared. Have you ever seen those videos of the news all just saying the exact same thing in slightly different wording? Like that's and they are all run by the same subsidiaries, but it just really seems devious when you hear them all together because I feel like they alter the wording just so slightly to make it seem like they all came to this conclusion on their own. But we
That's
know
like what
for
the
sure.
DNC was approaching people with. That's where I saw a bunch of them as well. I saw them before that too, but
Well, I tell you what, so here's a this is about the World Economic Forum because they have a written plan that I have read before where they've used that same sort of tactic, right? So the goal was that they wanted to enact a climate agenda worldwide that was the same, but they realized in their and they wrote about this that if they enacted the same one everywhere with the same wording, then it would be too obvious that it's the same plan, right? So the people would never go for it, and they would find that to be a, pretty, they would find it to be a bad thing no matter what. So they started developing different wording for the exact same thing so that they could implement the same protocols all over the world with different names, and people wouldn't ever connect the dots. But it's just, I think it's really, really devious just to even mention that, like to even think of that as something that you want to do as an organization is extremely creepy to me.
yeah, and I don't even know why we as society have allowed it to happen. And like I
We
don't know,
should
nobody
not.
questions it. There's like a lot of people on the right as well that do this, and they definitely get approached, and same thing happens. But I think the left has a lot more money and a lot more of that like popular influence, so I think they're a lot more successful. And I know that they spent like 10 times more than the Republicans did on that specific category
Oh yeah.
of their like spending on social media spending. They spent like a lot to Trump, and that whole team didn't spend very much.
They also spent a bunch on door knocking, the Kamala campaign, and people have said that might be one of the reasons they lost. They sent door knocking campaigns into the same areas 4 times. So the same
Well,
doors four
they
times
probably shouldn't have
in
had the UK people come over, the Labour Party. That was
oh, what's
probably
that?
the Labour Party in the UK. came
That
over
had
and
some.
knocked doors
Are you
in the swing
serious? I didn't know
states.
about that.
Yes,
That's why
it's a,
the you
it's not
down
allowed,
down with the
really,
queen. You think we want the crown back in here? Like, no.
dude. The leader of the Labor Party put it on Facebook, like she was proud of it all. And technically, it's not illegal because they didn't get paid to do it, but the Labor Party paid them to do it. But the U.S. didn't pay them to do it.
How is that not foreign interference? That's gotta be like
I,
in any sense of the word. Like we need to invade England.
yeah, I don't like it. Little island. I got in a fight with somebody on here yesterday. I think maybe it was a bot. I don't know, but I just kind of assume if somebody doesn't have a blue check mark, they're probably a bot. Um, but yeah, I was just shit talking Europe super hard yesterday.
Dude, I like to shit talk Canada because like I was shit talking somebody from Canada on Reddit, I think, not too long ago, and like I just give them the same business. I'm like, you guys are a British colony. You never ever fought your way out of the crown. You never even said that you stopped being a British colony. You just, faded into the existence, sucking off the teat of the U.S. government. And like they get pissed, dude.
That
They get
yeah, that's what
they get
that's what
real
I did.
pissed.
Actually, here I'll show you because I haven't been very active. If I can find out how to get to my thing here. Oh, actually, you know what? I could probably just go to my notifications and find it.
Canadians and Europeans.
Here we go. I think this might have been a bot. I don't know. I had fun with it though. I didn't have very good success on this one, I'll be honest. I thought it was funny though. I don't know.
Well, what
19
was it?
trillion European Union economy, it says. And like I was saying earlier, Europe is trying to consolidate their military and economy so that they can be a
Yep.
global power.
Yeah, they
And
want to compete with us.
yeah, so I just said still only like 65% of America's.
Oh, they got mad.
It's not about you.
1.5K.
I said it surely is. The reason Europe wants to combine all of this, I kind of just go through that same stuff, but uh, then he, I don't know, says there's a bunch of different ways to combine. We don't need to compete. There's 440 million mid-high income customers. Everyone wants to trade, including Canada and Mexico. What are you or anyone else going to do? And I just try to like explain to this person or bot or whatever it is.
You know what I would have said? What country are they from?
I don't know. It says Dublin, Ted. So I was thinking
Oh, well,
maybe
that'd be
Ireland,
England.
but
Oh,
no.
Ireland. Well, either way, it doesn't matter wherever they're from. Tell them that what you're going to do about it is not talk like I'm stupid like you guys do because you guys sound stupid when you talk.
I
That's
did.
what.
I ended up getting pretty funny with it, but I
Yeah.
want this part. I think is what I. This probably isn't a great example, but I'm literally just telling this guy that the U.S. and Europe are both realizing that they can't continue to use China for all the cheap manufacturing, and that
Yeah.
both of them are going to have to compete for that manufacturing. And
Yeah,
then I
that's a
said
good
that the
point.
U.S. does the or yeah, the more the US does, the more money comes in and vice versa. Both of them will compete over this regardless of what the people of the countries think. It's history. Global powers fight each other for global power. It's what the Cold War was over. It's what the Arctic issues are over. It's what the tariffs from America are over. And then I just said, I agree we shouldn't have to compete. I just don't see it working another way. And then like so I'm just like saying from like a broad perspective, right?
You're being
And
kind of
just
nice there
dives
too,
in.
you know?
Yeah, I wasn't even like a dick. So Europe's trade options are many. We tariff back. Soon EU will integrate Ukraine. Economy will grow by 40 million, approaching 500 million.
Oh my God.
And then I
Yeah,
just
because we're the
re
ones paying for that war in Ukraine. Jesus.
I'll just skip over what I said back. I don't think there's really anything in there, but um, I don't know. I just explained tariffs a little bit, but
These Europeans, man.
uh, how about EU just tariffs the ever living F out of all US products from before the midterms to the next election? Canada and China and Mexico will make up the shortfall. You know, EU isn't Panama's size, right? It's incorrect, dude. I'm literally just telling you what's going on in the world. If you don't want to believe it, that's fine. Let me know how the EU tariffing the US goes. I have
Oh
a
my
hunch it
God.
wouldn't last long.
Dude, that is really funny actually. People are
I'm
it's
trying
a
to be
whole
nicer to
thing.
people on
You
here,
are being
and
nice though. Like I give you credit for sure.
and yeah, he just wasn't taking it. So hold on, there's some funny stuff. I had to. I just explained and outlined everything I said earlier, and then said Orange Man had to make you guys start funding your own military. He told you to stop relying on Russian gas, and you laughed at him. Then Russia cut it, and Germany almost froze. You keep gobbling
Oh,
up the EU talking points. Maybe they just want you to have pride for them, so you don't come over to America like most of our ancestors did. So maybe
that
there's a
was
big
that
war
was a
next
burn.
door.
That was a burn for sure.
And of course, they laugh at Americans asking them to quit an immensely profitable gas deal. Germany made hundreds, billions. We're too big a hill for you. 4 years won't even get you started. So, I mean,
Did
if
he
the
not?
money was worth almost freezing the whole country, then good for them. I'd be furious if my country laughed at another world leader for pointing out common sense. I'm actually still laughing that you are trying to defend Germany relying on an adversary when the good they were relying on was literally the most essential thing to the whole country. I'm still laughing today.
Dude, that is good.
uh, I don't know. He said something about uh, Israel and stuff, so I just
He's got nothing to
try to
say to
keep that
that.
out. But there's only like another fun one somewhere. Your country's ruled by industry. You can't do shit here for all that power. Dems in China waiting for you to fuck it up. I said, who rules you then? Corporations? So your biggest problem with Americans is also your problem? I don't think I can entertain this anymore. He said, keep yapping.
Whenever you keep, yeah, he lost. He lost. He knows
There's
it.
we had to go down a couple of different threads here though. Oh, you'll like this one. He said, uh, I explained to him how everybody uses the U.S. for its like dumping ground to make profits. So if you guys really want to like cut all of your ties with America, I think you're gonna be a little bit upset and surprised. He says, "Fuck the U.S. taxpayer. I don't care. U.S. companies want access to our gigantic market, and they'll eat Euro ass for the privilege, or we'll just buy a Chinese copy. Give me some murder stats, fat tits, then do incarceration rate. Here's to Biden. Here's to Biden. The guy shit himself at the Vatican, dude. And I didn't realize you were so involved in our politics. You can't keep America out of your mind. What's going on? Almost like we run the world and you guys have to follow us in the past about 10 years in the past. When did you guys get off MySpace? 2020?
That's
It's just
good.
a bot though,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure, dude.
it could be. I mean, but either way, you're dunking on the bot, dude. If it is a bot, you're winning.
I had to stop because I don't know. I thought it was a bot at this point, and I was like, I'll just make this funny, and then I got to stop because this is kind of, I don't know, conflicting inside my own. I do think this is a bot, but he said didn't give a shit about Biden till today. You made a Democrat supporter today. Well done, shithead. I said you can't vote here,
Yeah, what?
so I can
There's so
donate.
many of
I
them.
said so you could just donate it to a rapper if you want. Skip the middleman if you're just trying to donate it to the DNC.
I can donate. He says he can. He says
He
he
can't. I don't know. I
can.
think he can.
Yeah, I guess well, I don't know if he can directly, give to a political campaign, but I'm sure there's something, you know, it reminds me of the fact that I was having this conversation with somebody. It was on a subreddit about something about America, right? So I assumed when somebody had such a heavy opinion about it that they were Americans, right? Because it wasn't something that impacted the world. It was really a specific issue for Americans. And this guy was so passionate about it. I'm like, and then he eventually told me, I don't even live there. I live in Europe. I'm like, why do you have such a strong opinion about this? He's like, don't you know, like Trump's really bad, and because this reason and that reason and the other reason. I'm like, do you know anything about the Democrats? Like, do you get any news about that? He's like, no, not really. Like, I'm like, do you know about this thing? He didn't know about it. I asked him about like five other different things. So I'm like, why is there this international media that just talks about whatever Trump does? Like they were doing it the whole time Biden was in, because this was back like during the like third and a half year of Biden being the president. So it was just really strange for this person to be like so opinionated about it and just be following everything that Trump was doing and saying. And I think what it was about one of the court cases. So like what impact or what even concern would a European have about the like Stormy Daniels court case, for example?
Yeah, and like nobody, they make these gaps in people's like minds. Same thing happened with that Kyle Rittenhouse case, right? Or no? Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Because everybody thought the people that he killed were black and they were white. Because they just didn't tell anybody. So they just left out like one of the most important facts and then talked about everything else so much and overloaded, which is, I know is a propaganda technique, but they like information overload, I think is the name. But then, yeah, so they just talk about everything else besides that, and then people don't even think about it. Because, like, nobody, you know how many people were like, wait, this guy's racist, but why? It's like, oh, because it was at a black, but he killed white people there? Like,
And
yeah. Like,
the
oh,
guy
I
was a
would have never known. I
pedophile.
thought they were black.
Yeah, they're like kills Black Lives Matter protester. That was the way that they presented that. Like Kyle Rittenhouse shoots and kills Black Lives Matter protester. Like
White
that.
supremacist,
Yeah.
remember. By the president of the United States called him a white supremacist on national TV.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's a little wild, you
And I
know.
think what you were saying about that person caring so much about that is that it's like it's a. I need to find a better way to explain this, but if you don't have a religion that is a religion that's like a one that everybody knows, like if you're not Christian or Jewish or like Buddhist or whatever, you have to have some form of religion. That's how your brain is wired. That's why governments and everything put religion there, is because that if they can just get everybody to follow at least the same one, then it's like then they I mean it helps them control. It helps I think keep people together too. But when people don't have one, they have their political beliefs is what becomes their religion, because
Yeah.
your political beliefs is the exact same, like down to the, I don't know, like fine details, the exact same thing that a religion is, minus like a worship of uh, a god or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's the only thing missing, but everything else that goes along with religion is all a part of that. So I think people just like it's part of their religion over there, so they're like sticking up for their religion. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
not
get
the
it.
first person I've heard say that, and I agree with it completely because I do feel like a lot of the modern political movements, especially from non-religious people, uh, they really feel like a religion. And then that side complains about the other side making decisions based on their religion, which is very strange to me. Because I don't know. And what people don't realize is that you may not think this, but left-wing politics does have inspiration from religion. And a lot of their concepts come from a version of Eastern religion, for example. You can find the direct lines to compare it. I
There's
swear to
um
God.
there's a video on YouTube. I don't know what it's called, but it's the history of um it's the history of like religious philosophy or something, and it goes through and it breaks everything down from the first beliefs that humans had and where that in a psychological way where that was coming from, and then it graphs it all out on like a big timeline with like connecting lines to what is part of the same belief or what grew off of the same belief, and then it has like the people that like put those beliefs in into, and yeah, you're right, like all of that is tied back, and like half of the progressive idea, which is that's the actual religion, is that you believe that humans are always progressing forward. That's also why they think that like communism and socialism will work. It's because they have this belief in their religion that humans always are working and getting better, so they always believe that humans could be like indoctrined or could be factory raised by the state basically to be perfect, where the rest of us think that that is retarded,
Yeah,
quite
and
frankly.
no, and I can give a little bit of insight into this. I am a psychology major. I have a bachelor's. It's not that big of a deal, but I also have a lot of, thoughts about this in religion, and I've looked into it to the point where I can explain the parallel very easily between ancient people's thought and what we still have going on today. It's like the stupid, it's the same stupid thought that's been going on for thousands of years. And then what I think we should do is like a whole podcast like about this because it's just such an interesting topic. But what I'll say is that back in the day, like there was religion was classified into the left hand path and the right hand path. And the way those things are described is that the left hand path is ultimate liberation. Humans believe that everything is good. So, seek ultimate pleasure, do whatever feels good. That was the religious philosophy. And then the other side, the right hand path, is called asceticism, and what that is total restriction. It's the belief that human nature needs to be restricted for us to be good. We shouldn't do this on this day. We shouldn't do this on that day. Humans shouldn't do this. Like, and that fits very, very neatly sometimes into the uh
The
the
political
the
spectrum.
yeah, like obviously the left wing people are a little bit too permissive and the right wing people are a little too restrictive. That's what people say about them, right? So then in religious stories, you always have a character, if it's a good religion, um, offers the middle way, something that cuts through the bullshit of both those sides. So one example is very literal, is Buddha, and if you read anything about that religion, then you'll find that his entire goal is to offer the middle way. That's exactly what they call it. And what he's referring to is a middle way between the right hand and left hand path of those religious concepts. So, Jesus is the same archetype as well, coming in to tell people, like, don't do that, don't do this. And he offers a completely different philosophy, right? So there are ways to kind of get to people, but the unfortunate part is we just have these. I like to use as an analogy the two sides of our brain. We have a left brain and a right brain, and for some reason we just get stuck in one or the other. We don't realize we can use both, you know? um,
Maybe
and
more
that
people just need to do shrooms
I
to
think so
connect all
too.
that.
I do agree with that. That if you might come to this sort of conclusion if you take not too much, but just enough.
I think
But
maybe it's important for people to know after I just said that psilocybin actually does interconnect the different hemispheres of your brain to communicate with each other through its neural pathways. It's not
and this
just
is This is why I think we should
hippie
have a
stuff.
whole podcast on this, dude, because this is a really, really um good concept.
Love you. Bye.